Welcome back to the North American Challenger Cup for Guild Wars 2 as we have our next matchup ready for you. It's going to be eDream up against Zero Counterplay. Let's go ahead and take a look at our bracket as we have the updated standings for what's going on. It looks like eDream was able to get into the winner's bracket semifinals along with Zero Counterplay, who took down Radioactive there. What are your thoughts on this matchup, Hurix?
This is going to be a pretty good one. Zero Counterplay pretty convincingly took it over Team Radioactive. So eDream is, as we talked about, one of the teams that we expect to be, of the three that do wind up getting in. So they have a pretty hard matchup ahead of them. I expect eDream to probably take this one.
You're talking about who is going to be getting into the Pro League, and eDream being one of those three. This match directly affects who is going to be in. So whoever takes the set will be into the North American Pro League scene. So definitely a lot on the line for these teams. We're just waiting on them to go ahead and join up. We actually saw a little bit of eDream up against Radioactive just a few minutes ago, Zero Counterplay up against Radioactive a few minutes ago. What were your thoughts and takeaways from that matchup?
Yeah, that one, was kind of from Zero Counterplay versus Radioactive. That was actually a pretty interesting setup. I mean, Radioactive has had a lot of success in the past, going back to the Go Fours and even beyond that into the ESL weeklies. They've been pretty successful, but as of late, ever since their faltering, a little bit of a stumble last season in the Challenger Cup for that season, in the qualifier rather, they haven't really been the same, and the roster shows and their play shows as well, and kind of shows that fact. So they've fallen. Zero Counterplay did pretty well in the first map. I mean, dropping, I think the only points they dropped were actually to the bosses in Forest, and then a little bit of a stumble in Legacy, so we'll have to see how it goes. I don't expect that if they play the way that they just did on Legacy against eDream, that they'll be doing too well.
A little bit of background history on eDream. You mentioned that they had been in the Season 1 Challenger Cup. They fell short. I believe they lost ASAP Zerg in the losers bracket, who then lost to Team PZ and didn't qualify for Season 1. So this team, at least 3 out of 5, I believe, of this team were on eDream at that time. They are being filled out with a couple of extra guys, though. Bear, who was on Team Never Lucky throughout Season 1, is now their new captain and leader. So he's going to be, kind of leading these guys, trying to lead them to victory. And, of course, they were looking to play with another member who was not with them, unfortunately. So they picked up Hazard not too long ago, who's going to be the Revenant for this team. And this is a pretty strong roster that doesn't have a whole lot of competitive experience, but these are pretty solid guys, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I think both teams are filled with some pretty solid players. Honestly, I mean, Zero Counterplay is one of those teams that, is potentially being relegated, but did make it into the first season of the Pro League, and for a good reason. I mean, they were decent enough. Obviously they were the last place team, and there was some pretty big discrepancy between their how they kind of conveyed their skill level versus even the 5th and 6th place slots. But they're coming back, and they are coming back with a little bit of a vengeance, I think. And I really do think that they're trying their best to make sure that they get back into it, and that they can prove to themselves and to everyone else that they have what it takes to be a really, really consistently strong team. But as I said before, eDream, you were talking about them as well. I just think they're too strong as it is right now, and their preparation before this tournament for the past month even and beyond that has been so stellar. They've been doing such a great job against basically everyone that we're going to be seeing them potentially up against. Other than I think their main competition, Best Team North Africa.
All right, let's go ahead and head into our first game. As we have both teams joined up here over on the red, that would be eDream. Over on the blue, as they're joining up, that is Zero Counterplay. Let's hope they don't start this one without looking at our builds here. Why don't you take us away with the red team?
Starting off first here with Bear, going to be changing his main again here to Mesmer, and he's going to be on Staff, Sword, Shield. With the Mercenary Amulet, Rune of the Nightmare, he's going to be going with a pretty standard setup actually for this condition, Mesmer, and he's going to be going with Illusions, Inspiration, and Chronomancer. Next we do have Kenya on the Engineer here, and he's going to be going with Hammer, Paladin's Amulet this time around, Rune of the Water, Inventions, Alchemy, and Scrapper. We're going to be seeing as well Hazard in this game, and he's going to be playing Sword, Shield, Staff, Paladin's Amulet, Rune of Strength, going with Devastation, Retribution, Herald. So definitely going to be seeing him in a lot of these team fights. Still some decent pressure that he's going to be able to put out, but certainly with a lot more survivability. And we are also going to be seeing Trig here on the Elementalist with Dagger Focus, Cleric Amulet, Plan Support with that Rune of Soldier, Earth, Water, and Air, going with Cleansing Water rather than the Aura shared. Though it is important to note that you do get those auras from the Shout, so he is going to be able to provide that healing to his teammates as well, despite that that trait choice.
Something I want to point out here is, so Hazard is on Retribution with Paladin's Amulet. I know for a fact over the past several weeks he has been practicing Marauder Amulet. I know these guys actually scrimped each other just the other day, and Hazard, I didn't actually see them, but Hazard has, I feel like, obviously been the main target for the most part. I feel like that's why he's kind of changed over to the Paladin's Amulet. He's, like you said, he's going to be a little bit more defensive. They're not going to have as much offense with this, but even so, I feel like he should be able to do a good job. Hazard's pretty good at putting out some damage, if you ask me. But that going up against something like Aerox, it's going to be much more difficult for him to take down Aerox in particular, even Cyndaquil for that matter. So not having that extra boost of damage with Marauder Amulet kind of worries me, but it also kind of says something like, okay, he seems to be the guy that's being targeted down the most, so if we put him on a little bit more defensive build, he might be able to keep himself up a little bit more. So let's go ahead and take a look at the side of the blue team. That would be Zero Counterplay. You have Aerox running the Elementalist for these guys with the Dagger Focus. Soldier Runes with Cleric's Amulet, taking that Earth, Water, and Tempest for himself. Moves on the Guardian, of course, with the Scepter. Looks like he's going with the Focus himself. Sword Focus with the Longbow. Running with Pack Runes, Marauder Amulet. He'll be taking the Valor, Virtues, and Dragon Hunter for himself. Magnemite, that would be Cyndaquil, is going to be on the Engineer for these guys. Running with the Hammer, Rune of Leadership, Paladin's Amulet. He'll be taking Alchemy, Inventions, and Scrapper. Hypno is on the Revenant for these guys. He is actually going to be running what we saw from Hazard with the Staff, Sword, Shield, except he's going to be running Holberg Runes instead of the Strength we saw from the other Revenant. He's going to be running with Paladin's Amulet. Going to be taking the Devastation, Retribution, and Herald for themselves. So waiting for their fifth member to go ahead and join up here. But just from seeing these team calls, actually Pod. Okay, Pod did just join up. He is actually the recently added fifth to this team. He's going to be running with the Staff, Scepter, Warhorn, Nightmare Runes, Mercenary Amulet. He'll be taking Spite, Soul Reaping, and Reaper for himself. So looking at these team compositions, looking at these builds, what is your takeaway here?
I'm going to give it right now probably to eDream, just based off of the way that they've set themselves up. The main thing that I think possibly might give Zero Counterplay an edge is the fact that they do have a good amount of support coming from that Elementalist and a lot of damage that they can front load. If they keep Paw and Aerox together, I think, on that mid node and just use moves to kind of come in and out, put down a ton of pressure, I think they have a shot. But overall, I think that eDream is probably a better team at this current stage, and I think that on top of that, they have a little bit better of an idea on how to play together, as they have done a lot of practice over the course of the last month or so. So I have to give it to eDream for sure.
I'd have to agree completely. Something to point out, I don't think we actually saw Eternity's build. He's running Curses. We saw Paw taking Spite instead. So a little bit of a variation in the build. Also running with Suffer. We saw Rise from both of them there, so taking the triple shout. Anyhow, game number 1 on the Forces of Niflhel about to start up here. A lot on the line for these teams. The winner going into the North American Pro League scene. Let's take a look at the opening splits. Both teams going to be sending 3 to the beach. Might see a little bit of a skirmish as they're not stealthed here. 2 set swirling winds. We are going to see a couple guys from eDream kind of stand back here and get on top of Aerox and company, who are looking to make a push here. So we're going to pretty much see an even split coming out from both of these teams.
Yeah, and that's kind of to be expected for the most part. I probably would have liked to have seen Aerox with the Necro. I mean, an Ellie and a Necro together is just so hard to take down. I mean, the pressure that it puts out, the sustain that you're able to provide to that Necromancer, the peels as well from the Shocking Aura, so good as a pair, but it doesn't look like they want to opt for that. Bear actually taking a little bit of pressure, opting instead to drop the portal, and he's going to try to make an exit here perhaps, although he might actually get down by Moobs. Moobs is able to follow up with this one, but doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Magnemite is pretty low at the midpoint himself. Eternity and Trig did a good job of putting down pressure onto him. Now getting on top of Paw, who doesn't have a whole lot of cooldown. It says no transfers actually available to him. Unless he swaps to the staff, which we're not exactly sure if he is. Going to go into that shroud now, looking to put down some pressure himself. Does get mowed. Very nice mow coming out there from Bear. Look at the con he's taking on top of Paw. He might be taking him down. He is going to be taken into the down state. We do see some res attempt coming out there. He is going to be stomped out for good. And it looks like E-Dream going to start out with the upper hand at the keep node here. Pretty good play overall coming out there at that fight.
Yeah, and Bear was able to take a quick exit with that portal as well, get the decap on Henge, and it looks like he's actually going to be able to get the full cap as well. So they're going to be able to clean up the keep fight, hold the mine over there, and actually get this Henge fully capped out. So they're going to be coming right on back in this point, in these points right now.
Cyndaquil taken out there, finished the job by Hazard. Meanwhile, Aerox still in that 1v1 with Kenya. He is going to get a little bit of help from Paw off of respawn. Hazard probably going to realize his teammate needs some support. He's probably going to have to move back to this node. Miscommunication, I think, already coming out there from E-Dream. See there, now Hazard is coming back, but he's actually looking to plus over at the Henge. He knows there's a respawn coming out there. Aerox going to leave the 2v1. Let Paw take that 1v1, putting him in the hands of winning that matchup. So E-Dream with the only cap here, as they were not able to quite clean up that keep fight.
Yeah, it looks like they have a pretty good shot at doing that now, though, as Aerox is trying to keep Hypno alive and doing actually a pretty decent job of it. We do have to keep in mind, though, that this is the power setup of the Necromancer and the Ellie together here, and it is going to be plussed also by Kenya, who's coming in on the Engineer. And now we're going to have a 3-man fight here, as Paw is actually going to join in on this one as well. So an interesting 3v3. It looks like Red Team kind of taking the brunt of the damage here for the most part, but Trig actually able to get a lot of that back, and now Bear actually over on the Henge is going to be dropped, and it looks like Hazard's trying to get him back up, but I don't really think that's going to be happening at all, as they do get the stomp and the decap as well, and now they still have that mine capped up, so this is going to be swinging in the other direction.
I think that's the right move from Hazard to bail out of that fight. Don't even stick around to try and get a full Glint heal there, as he did pop it for himself. Got back to the mid node, able to take down Hypno. We'll have to see if they're going to be able to pick up the stomp. Aerox CC'd off that. There's no way they're getting him back up. Bear off of respawn. They're going to leave moves with him. I think they feel comfortable about that matchup, seeing as Bear felt forced out of that 1v1 we saw at the opening start of this game. So looking for that 1v1 once again, instead of putting Paw there. Now Paw's going to move back. We're going to see this kind of shift over to the other side of the map now. Red Team finally getting that keep node for themselves, but Zero Counterplay actually doing a very impressive job thus far throughout this game.
Yeah, I mean, all really Zero Counterplay is doing here is forcing these small little skirmish fights and making sure to take advantage of the fact that this Red Team, E-Dream, is, for the most part, using a composition that's based entirely around team fights. And if they can force these rotations from these players, then they're going to be getting them into these kind of weird 1v1s, 1v2s, 2v2s, where they might not necessarily be at an advantage, whereas in a 3v3 or 4v4, they probably would be.
This is the big team fight you were talking about. Moves now in the downstate as well. This is exactly what E-Dream wants. They want to force the entities, make moves useless. He is taken into the downstate. Now Hypno is kind of left with Aerox and Cyndaquil, but they're only going to be able to stay alive for so long in this 4v3 here, as we actually will see Bear start to move towards that mid. He's going to come back, try and take down Hypno. Look at the con. He's Hypno going to be forced into the downstate there. Arrow looking to support Cyndaquil, but they're going to be outmanned in a matter of seconds. I'm very surprised Hazard is making a move towards the mid right now. They do not want to put him in that fight over here at the mine point. Aerox might get res here thanks to that function gyro. It looks like he will get back up in the midst of this fight. I really don't like that rotation coming out there. They were kind of just...
Did you see that?
E-Dream is just kind of moving around here.
Back up as well. I'm not sure if they have the CC for this. We'll have to find out. And it looks like they are going to be able to get him back up. So, I mean, collectively, they weren't able to get anything so far because Magnemite was able to get in there, or rather Cyndaquil was able to get in there and just get all of his teammates back up from the function gyro and just pulling off. And, I think that was definitely a misplay on the part of E-Dream, but they're going to be able to follow this fight all the way over to Keep. They still have a 2-cap right now. If they're able to get some support to Barely, I think they're going to be able to win this fight out once again, but Barely is going to be at about 30 HP, stuck in combat here, so he's going to be starting this 2v1 here against Senda with about 50%.
Well, they didn't necessarily not come up with anything. They didn't really come up with as many kills as they made hope for, but they did come up with the node itself. So they are going to start to build a little bit of a lead here. Meanwhile, at the mid fight, we have a lot of pressure going down onto Hypno. He's going to seem to be the main target, as is Trig. Needs to be very careful. Moves back in the action as well. So still, another little team fight going on here. We are going to see Eternity look for a decap over there at the Henge node. Moves looked like he was considering it, but this is just really good play coming out here from Edream.
Well, the thing I don't like is that they were kind of forced into a really awkward position where the Necro was actually kind of, in this case, forced to go over to Henge. And this is a great rotation from them. Hazard probably going to be dying here, and he is going to get stomped there by Aerox, and they're going to be forcing that fight over towards the mine. But still, they lost a little bit of the control over that keep fight when they had two people pulled out over towards mine to go ahead and deal with one of the players, actually Cyndaquil there from this blue team, and it forced a really slow rotation from the Necromancer. They're still going to be in a pretty good spot because blue team was not able to really capitalize on that situation, but despite that, they can't be making mistakes like that going into the Pro League if they do wind up making it.
That was the rotation that I absolutely loved there from Bear and Edream. Like you said, they were kind of forced into getting that Henge node. They lost Hazard. Bear went over there, threw down the portal, and got out as fast as he can. Of course, he had multiple members of Zero Counterplay training him down. Now he's going to portal out. He gets through, but he is actually going to get function stopped by Cyndaquil, who's just sitting there. He can't. I mean, he's lucky that he came through in the down state there and that nobody followed up from Edream, who are still holding on to two points, by the way. But Pa going to be able to pick up the TCAP over there. And even so, they built themselves a decent lead to where that can happen. They can make a couple of mistakes, but they got to get going here if they want to start to move away with this first game.
They really need to be able to take these 1v1s because right now we're seeing a 1v1 between Kenya and Pa, and for the most part, I mean, you look at some of these skirmishes that they begin into, and that's largely where the problems have arisen. I mean, they've faltered a little bit. They aren't as convincing in those scenarios as they are with these larger team fights, as we see them wiping them up left and right for the most part. And right now, looking at this fight here, I mean, already Kenya at a slight disadvantage against Pa. And these are the situations they need to get out of. They need to force bigger team fights. They need to force huge rotations so they can get the advantage and hold on to it and then make rotations based off of that.
And you mentioned those 1v1s. We finally see Bear force moves out of the 1v1. Earlier on, it felt like Bear didn't want to take that matchup. He probably shouldn't be losing that matchup. He has a lot to mitigate some damage coming out there from moves, but will get that decap for themselves here and hold on to their own node. Even so, Zero Counterplay is definitely not out of this game. If they're able to take this 2v2 skirmish over here at the mine point, they could come back into it. They're not down. They're down under 75 points right now, and not really losing anyone too much over there at the Henge point. Pause pretty low outside of the Shroud, but overall, this has been a pretty steady game where no one has significantly had a huge advantage, but Edream, it feels like they can pull away if they just win some of these smaller fights.
Oh man, Pa missing on that juke there, and actually wound up wasting a little bit of time and losing out on a little bit of pressure as well, and now he's going to take a lot of pressure because of that, and just getting trained all over the place. Does still have a decent amount of Reaper Shroud, so he's just basically trying to trade right now, and trying to trade a lot of the pressure that he's receiving and put some of it back down onto Hazard here and possibly Trig as well. But Trig, we have to remember, is in that support role, going to be able to have a lot of healing, but despite that, they are going to be able to bring down Hazard eventually here and force this rotation out and hold on to the Henge here.
They lost the 2v2 over at the mine, and that really killed them. Like I said, if Zero Counterplay can take those two side fights like they just did, that doesn't, like you mentioned earlier, it doesn't really seem to favor Edream. They don't really do too well in those fights, and now we see Zero Counterplay do exactly what they need to. They're trying to split them up just like they need to in these situations. Zero Counterplay looking to push forward over towards that mine, though, expecting a little bit of a home push come out there from Edream, but they are back in this game now. They're down about 30 points here. This is still anybody's game as we near that 400-point mark.
This is such a good play here from Zero Counterplay. I think that Edream, I still am a firm believer that Edream is the better team, but Zero Counterplay is just playing this so smart. I mean, the way that they're just saying, you know what, this is a big team fight, we may or may not have an advantage, but we know that we can create an artificial one if we pull out of this and force the spread. I mean, if we spread them, then we have a little bit better of an opportunity to actually win some of these fights, and then to maybe take this game, and they're still right now in a position where they could potentially take this one. I mean, it's very, very close, 20 points away, 1-to-1 cap. We do have Cyndaquil going down on the mine point, going to get stomped here from Kenya as well, so we are going to be seeing actually a 2 cap in favor of the red team.
And this is,
pretty
you couldn't
soon.
ask for this at a better time for E-Dream. To make sure you got your Mesmer in that 1v1, he can throw down a portal over there at far in just a second. Already throws the Moa onto it, though, so he gets plus by Aerox. If you ask me right now, if you're Bear, throw down the portal, get out of that fight. I guess you can hold on as long as you want to, but you can't afford to die here. You can't afford to get your team outnumbered. So we're going to see him try and hold off 2 members as long as he can. They're starting to soak up that 2-cap. They're 70 points away from victory right now. This is Zero Counterplay's last chance to get back into this game.
Hog going down here, though, right next to the keep. Triggy gonna go for the stomp, and that's only 50 points away for victory for this team E-Dream right now, and looks like they're gonna be going over towards their side of the map, pulling away, going for a little bit of a defensive split. This is actually a great scenario for them to be in here. As we know, E-Dream is extremely good at taking these larger team fights, which blue team is now kind of forced into taking if they want any hope of actually getting back into this game, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to be quick enough about that to actually force anything to happen here, as the midpoint is going to be pretty much secure, as Triggy's going to be able to hold on to that one for the remainder of the game, and certainly going to be potentially a similar situation here with Kenya and Pa as they do take the Beast out. 5-13 to 4-15, we are going to be seeing E-Dream move on into Game 2 with a 1-0 lead.
What a game from both of these teams here. E-Dream definitely not looking at their strongest, I have to say. There's definitely some inherent flaws with some, not necessarily their strategies, but their skirmishes as a team. That was kind of the highlight of the game. The fact their team fights were just very strong. And Zero Counterplay, I think they know what they need to do on this next map, and they started to recover, started to do a better job of about midway through that game. I definitely think they can take this second game here if they execute that well. But if they force too many team fights at this graveyard, I feel like it's going to be game over for Zero Counterplay.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely, in my opinion, going to be an easier map for E-Dream to take the advantage because of the way that this map is played. I mean, really comes down to momentum, but we'll have to see. Zero Counterplay was very intelligent in the way that they rotated the last map. Perhaps they're going to be able to replicate that in this one. But, I mean, again, I'm going to have to give it to E-Dream, and I think it's going to be more closely to what would be a little bit... I would say it's probably going to be a little bit more of a discrepancy in the score this time around.
It really feels like that's kind of what happens with most of these types of sets. I don't really feel like... I mean, Zero Counterplay, I feel like if they were going to take a game, it was going to be that game. E-Dream, although there were some bad mistakes on their end, I feel like they can clean them up on Legacy of the Foe-Fire. This map, I feel like it better favors them as well. And moving on into this Legacy of the Foe-Fire, if they're able to pick up this victory, they will be moving on into the Pro League. So this game means a lot here for E-Dream. Of course, if they do drop it, we'll head over to the Temple of the Silent Storm. But as we wait for these guys to ready up, I'm not so sure we're going to see a whole lot of changes for either of these teams. Anything you're expecting coming out from these guys?
I'm not really expecting any big changes. I mean, we might see a trait here and there, or, you know, something like that, but I don't really expect even that for the most part. I think we're going to be seeing most of the same thing. The game was pretty close last time, but these guys haven't really, I guess, shown themselves as being the kinds of teams that make a lot of changes on the fly, as some teams, you know, might do. We saw that from Rank 55, making those quick adaptations on the fly, actually just in the LAN finals. So I don't really foresee that happening here in this matchup. And,
Eternity actually changed over from Mercenary, and it looks like.
Well, he was actually on Wanderers last game.
Okay, he must have changed it before it started, or maybe I looked at it wrong. Perhaps.
Yeah, he was on Wanderers. They're going for a lot of toughness here. They have a lot of sustain. So again, these team fights are going to be a little bit more in their favor. I have to say that, you know, it's going to be certainly a little bit easier for them to take it because of their sustained pressure and their ability to, you know, keep each other alive and keep each other supported as well. They do have a lot of peels. So I think that, again, E-Dream is looking pretty good in this particular map, and already being up 1-0 is just going to help that.
Well, we're just waiting on these guys to go ahead and get this game underway. See if we will be forced to a game number 3, or if E-Dream will be taking the 2-0 victory over Zero Counterplay. Of course, still double elimination tournament, so even if Zero Counterplay does drop this game or E-Dream loses the next 2, both these teams still have a shot to get in to the Pro League. I'm still going to go with my prediction of E-Dream taking this set. I feel like overall they're just the better team. But Zero Counterplay, I have to say, coming into this, definitely have surprised me in terms of where they have gotten with their new pickups over the last few days.
The match starts.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, for sure. Looking at this map, though, as it's about to begin, what do you think that they're going to have to change in order to, accommodate the opponent in this matchup?
It's going to be all about those rotations to the side nodes, I feel like, for Zero Counterplay. They can't, as I said earlier, they can't afford to get in all these team fights. They got to play 3 nodes, I feel, or at least split them up. Like they did the latter half of that first game. But game number 2, going to be starting up here. We do have a 3-point push coming out for both of these teams. A 1-2-2 going to be what we're going to see here, as Moob's actually going to be forced into a 1v2. This is not a position he wants to be in. He has no support even close to him. Renewed Focus might be the only saving grace he has. Going to get Magnemite in the area to help him out. But look at, I mean, he's already nearly dead. Not a lot of cooldowns left for him. A lot of damage onto Bear at the start of this one, but they're playing very aggressive, if you ask me.
Yeah, and they're just training all over. Bear doing a pretty good job of staying alive, and Moobs still taking some pressure. We have to remember that once Moobs runs out of cooldowns, that is it for him, whereas the Mesmer, has a little bit more bring to the table defensively, at least in my opinion, over the course of a longer fight. And right now, Bear is actually still receiving so much damage. Like he is going to be able to get a huge heal, actually. Moobs able to get back up to 100%, lay down some pressure, and actually throws it right back into himself as he does get that reflected true shot. Still barely, though.
I want to go ahead and take a look at Hypno in the 1v1 against Kenya. He might actually be taken down here. Doesn't have his glint heal up for a few more seconds now, as he nearly was taken out. Doing a very good job, or Kenya was doing a very good job against him, but not able to seal the deal just yet. Meanwhile, back to the waterfall, Moob's taken into the downstate Hazard with a lot of cleave. I don't think he's going to be able to get it back up into the fight. Oh, the Slick Shoe's actually coming out there from Magma. He's going to get it back up in the fight now as Trig was taken down at the midpoint. Bear gets really low here, and take a look at mid. It doesn't look like Eternity is going to be able to get the res, so the first points of the game going over to Zero Counterplay.
And look at the health bars across the board, though. Everybody's sitting so low. I mean, this is just moments away from going, any direction at this stage. Aerox getting extremely low, taken down, actually, by Eternity. And Eternity now looking to put a bunch of pressure down onto Paw. Looks like Paw's going to be trying potentially for the res, although we are going to be seeing Bear enter the fray here and potentially set up for another takedown here. 2 members of Blue Team are down. E-Dream with a great rotation there to be able to get that one.
You could not have looked. Eternity could not have played that better, if you ask me. That was an excellent move by him to peel out. Aerox followed him up there, got taken down himself. There was really nothing Paw could do. They're coming in just to make sure he finishes the job there. Very, very excellent play there from Eternity.
Yeah, and they wound up losing Waterfall, but as we know, Waterfall is such an easier point to decap as it's already been done, especially when you're able to secure 3 kills across the map there. I think that was just still the best move that they could have possibly made in that particular scenario. Now they're going to be walking away with 2 points advantage right now, and a downstate still in the form of Cinda, as he is going to be bled out here.
Kenya in the 1v2, Moobs made a rotation over here. Kenya doing what he needs to do, make sure he doesn't sit on that point. He does have the gate really close if it looks like Hypno's going to take him down. Oh, Hypno takes him down with the auto attack. Quickness there coming out there from the Shiro stance, as it looked like Kenya was going to make his way back into the base. That was a huge pickup for these guys. They have the numbers advantage around the map now that Cyndaquil is off respawn, but can they do anything with it is the real question here.
Looks like they're going around the backside here to this midpoint. It's for the most part open. They might actually see a little bit of a 1v1 with Hazard here. Looks like he's kind of making sure he does. Oh, he is going to make the rotation into mid. I don't know about that. Looks like he is going to be forced to give up one of the points, and that is going to be in the form of Waterfall here, as he is going to be forced to take a 1v2 now for at least a little while between Hypno and Paw, but he is going to get reinforced, forcing Paw off. They're going to hold on to the Graveyard and still giving up Quarry, and it looks like the 1v1 is going to be between Kenya and Cinda here over on the Waterfall.
Excellent support from Trig, keeping Kenya alive. Keeping Hazard alive, who's actually taken into the downstate though, to get him back up into the mix. As you said, Kenya is in that 1v1 against Nicole, not going to be taken anywhere. This is what eDream wants. They want this 4v4 at the midpoint. This favors them. We actually see the Moa come out from Bear onto Paw. Paw has a lot of pressure on top of him. I don't think he's going to be able to make it out of this alive. Doesn't have his heal, doesn't have that Shroud up. He's going to be taken into the downstate, finishing with that Surge in the Mist from Hazard. This is an excellent pickup if they're able to get the kill here.
Yeah, and they're probably going to be able to get a double kill off of this. They might have to trade barely into the downstate, but the heal that just came out onto him, and he's back up to basically full HP, and they were able to secure that kill on Paw, and now looking to potentially put some more pressure down in this team fight. Looking like it's going to be Aerox here, who does go in Vuln at about 30-40% HP, and he's going to be trying to rotate along with his team over towards their quarry node into a more safe position, potentially. And it doesn't look like eDream's going to be having any of that, as they're going to follow that one right on out.
Bear dropped the portal at the quarry node, knows they can come back at any time to get that decap. Looks like Hypno's going to sit around there and wait for it perhaps. He's retreating back. He's not really following up with Aerox and moves there. Moves getting a nice cage down, but not really able to capitalize on it. Didn't have any pressure from Hypno, who went back to the quarry. I'm not exactly sure what he was hoping to accomplish there. Meanwhile, over at the waterfall, got a 2v2 in the mix. It's an identical matchup here. Necro-NG against Necro-NG. Hazard going to plus this one and try to take down Paw. Paw under a lot of pressure. This is a very good rotation coming out here.
Ooh, not a good play there from Paw. Actually threw out the Plague Signet unnecessarily, didn't transfer anything, and was already out of his stun by the time he actually did wind up pressing it, so he's going to go downstate in the process. Luckily, does get saved by his team. Looks like Eternity is going to have the same treatment from his team, and this is, again, one of those larger team fights. Eternity needs to get back over towards his team, get some peels, and they're going to be able to focus pressure then on Paw, who just entered the melee. I'm not really sure why he made that kind of play, because now he's going to take a bunch of cleave in the process. Going to be going down once again here in just a matter of seconds, unless he gets off his Reaper Shroud, and that might be the case here, as it is full.
Oh man, Aerox saves the day there with all the heals and cleanses on top of him. I think Paw went the wrong way. You need to utilize his terrain over here. There's so much for him to do and kite around people with that terrain advantage. Not really exactly sure what they're going to be able to do. They do manage to pick up the kill on Eternity here. Bear taken out by Moobs in a 1v1 at the quarry. This could be a turnaround for Zero Counterplay, as eDream really starting to fall apart here.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, this is certainly what I would call a series of unfortunate events for the most part. I mean, that was a fight that they should have won. They had Paw in a really bad position, had him caught out completely over pushed there and into the melee where he should not have been with the cooldowns that he had at that time. And, you know, they did not take advantage of that. Now they're staring down the barrel of a 2-cap and a fight where, again, a setup on Graveyard where if they can get their teammates into this fight, they're going to have the advantage again, in my opinion. But right now, it's kind of going both ways. Triggy taking a lot of pressure.
Unfortunately for Zero Counterplay, we did see a decap from Eternity off of Respawn. They're going to pick up that cap, but mitigate, a little bit of that point income. Bear wasn't able to pick up a decap against Paw over there at the waterfall. He actually got plussed by Magnemite. Now Eternity under a lot of pressure. He has no Shroud. Not much at all, actually, once it's up in about a second. Moves might be able to take him down here. Gets into Shroud, but bursted down regardless, as Hazard is nowhere to be found in a 1v1 against Hypno. Not really sure what he's hoping to accomplish here. He kind of needed to be around, I feel, to try and help peel for his teammate, put some deeps down onto Moves and mitigate some of that pressure. Trig is now in the area, but Zero Counterplay is really coming alive in the last few minutes here.
Yeah, Moves doing a great job of peeling for his teammates, and his team doing a great job of peeling for him, because they have not been able to find an answer for him over the past couple of minutes here, and he's been able to just do work across the map, maintaining pressure, doing great in his 1v1s, as we saw him take down Barely just moments ago, and now he's going to be able to go over and grab that full cap for his team, make sure that they don't get sneaky decapped once again off of that respawn, and he needs to make the rotation into mid very soon, as they're in a position to potentially put some burst down onto Trig and maybe get a kill off of this one. Barely right now getting kind of low over on the waterfall.
Oh, look at Paw. Paw's under so much pressure. Oh, huge play coming out there from Bear, utilizing that shield, taking him into the downstate. We'll have to see if they're going to be able to keep him down, though. Bear's now under so much pressure. Paw is starting to get rest, starting to get cleaved at the same time. Hazard is doing what he can, going in for the stomp on top of the Paw. He should be able to pick it up for himself. It looks like they do get the kill. Bear, though, taken into the downstate. Is it enough for Zero Counterplay to hold on at this fight? They're going in for the res. They should be able to get him up despite the cleave. What a play coming out there from eDream. They should be able to wipe up the rest of this fight now.
Yeah, and they are going to be probably looking for Senda here as he's pretty low, but pretty much out of cooldowns entirely here. Forced into Elixir S, still has the Condies ticking away on him, does have that dodge roll outside of this, but does get stunned and is still being chased out, trying to get some peels for himself. Aerox trying to follow up as well as he's low, and they're going to force them back all the way to the gate and get the cap on the waterfall for sure.
That was just an amazing play coming out there, really capitalizing on it. Now the real question is, can he get on the waterfall in time? And it doesn't look like, oh, no cap actually comes out there. So it was basically all a waste. Well, not necessarily a waste. Oh, they do pick it up. Miscommunication coming out there from Zero Counterplay, and now they are stuck. Look at where they're stuck. They're all 5 in this midst area. This is exactly where eDream wants you right now. Taking moves into the downstate. Aerox, they pick him back up, able to keep him alive for the time being, but now they're starting to separate as eDream rebuilding their lead once again.
Moves with a little bit of lag here. Looks like he's going to be back into it, though. Putting a ton of damage down onto Eternity. Hits a huge true shot on him, and they're going to be able to bring him down. Looks like Trig and Kenya still in the area, though. We're going to be seeing a stomp come off and actually go through. Eternity is going to be going down here, and they're going to be forcing a 3v3 still over on this waterfall here. But looking back over at the midpoint, a big pull coming off on Bear, and its moves already in another setup here to potentially take down Bear once again in a 1v1. It looks like they are going to be able to potentially get something going here.
I'm very surprised moves continued to follow up with Cyndaquil instead of picking up the decap. They almost had the decap on mid. I don't think Hazard would have been there in time. Even so, they've got about a 50-point lead, 4 minutes remaining in this game.
Oh, they still get it!
Oh, they get the decap at mid! But as I was saying, this is Lord territory for both of these teams. Oh, a decap comes out at the quarry! So I take that back entirely, because if they would have kept on to that, held on to that, hit the 350-point mark, we could have seen a Lord play come out from both these teams. This is going to come down to the wire. 3:30 remaining on the second map.
Bear does go down to the true shot from Moobs, and it looks like he might get the stomp off this time, and he does actually get it there. But
did you see that?
I mean,
Red
eDream
team
just
got a
falling
capture
apart across the
point.
map. Kenya is back on respawn right now, barely is dead. Trig is in downstate, getting decapped over on the waterfall pot. Gonna get that stomp now.
Hazard is in a. He's gonna go for this gate. That's probably the best
Just
move, to be
like
honest.
that.
There's no one even
Team
around
takes a
him right now.
capture
Cyndaquil sees him. Should be able to get the gate without a problem whatsoever. He could surge in the mist the rest of this down here. So they got the gate open. I would not be surprised to see Bear bring out the portal anytime here. Unless they get pressured all the way back to their point. It doesn't look like Zero Counterplay is really taking advantage of that. Paw's still over at the waterfall for some reason. I feel like Zero Counterplay's play right there should have been to pressure Corey as hard as they possibly could. Instead, they're letting eDream roam free now. Bear can go over to that gate if he wants to, put down a portal, get his team through that, or they can just play their own style of game as they want to right now. Bear actually going around to the waterfall, perhaps. No, he's going all the way, the long way over to the gate now. And this is it, boys. There's the portal.
Yeah, Bear going to be able to get potentially some of his teammates through. We are going to be seeing Eternity come on through. He's at half HP, though. Half his Reaper Shroud, able to get his heal off. But remember, he doesn't have a big health pool here. And, of course, you know, also, in turn, not have a huge Reaper Shroud as well either, as that does go off of Vitality. So,
is this a fake, though? Because Bear's going for a decap. They're going for it, but they have a contingency plan. They have Bear getting the decap over at the waterfall. If all else fails here, they can still win this game. Lord at about 60-70% HP right now, still looking fairly healthy. A lot of support coming out there from Trig. They should be able to get the Lord kill. Lord, oh no, Lord gonna get the full heal off here. Trig not able to keep Eternity up in this fight. Red taking the 2-cap right now. Despite dying at the Lord, Eternity will be stomped out. Now Kenya's under a lot of pressure. Trig doing what he can. I actually love that play coming out there from Bear. Trig just kind of derp around at the Lord here, and I think eDream still has this in the bag now.
This was actually a really, really smart play from them, and this is the kind of stuff that you don't see all too often, even from the teams that you kind of expect these huge plays from. That big fake pulling so many players from this Zero Counterplay team back over to the Lords, because they know that if they lose that Lord, it's game over. So they're forced into a position where they have to either equal them or potentially overbear them, and that's essentially what we saw, forcing those rotations out. All they have to do now is hold on to this 1v1 over on the quarry. Hazard getting pretty low in it right now, but as long as he holds out long enough to get Kenya rotated over, then it's going to be fine, and they're going to be holding on to this.
I don't think that they're going to be able to get the decap here. Game number 2, going to eDream after an incredible, I don't even want to say that was a fake, because it was an all-out attempt for the most part coming out there from eDream. Coming up with the 503 to 461 victory. They will be your first team moving on into the North American Pro League from the Challenger Cup. Congratulations to them. Job well done.
Yeah, and we talked about them being potentially one of those teams, and looking at the bracket before they even started playing, it was pretty evident that they were going to be the one to make it through, probably the easiest, at least in my opinion. So it's really going to come down to the next matchup, which is going to be easy peasy versus Best Team North Africa, which is certainly going to have a huge weight in terms of who's actually going to be making it through. But looking at the bottom side of the bracket, I have to go again with my picks that despite what happens in the next semifinal match between Easy Peasy and Best Team North Africa, I still think it's going to be those 3 teams. Whoever loses is going to make their way through the losers bracket and take it home.
I'd have to agree, but we're both 1 for 1 right now as to who's making it to the Pro League there, with eDream taking that 2-0 victory over Zero Counterplay. Congrats to them, guys. We're going to head to another break before we have our next matchup. Don't go anywhere.